Hello everybody, welcome to the next edition of Makeover Monday Watch Me Viz. This is for week 45, which is about video game sales, specifically around the Nintendo, one of the Nintendo gaming systems. I can't remember what it is off the top of my head right now. Anyway, we'll get to that in just a second. So first off, thanks for coming. Hopefully you learned something here. I will iterate through some different examples that I think might be useful. I don't know how much we'll actually get to today because it doesn't look like a super rich data set. Anyway, thanks for coming. Go ahead and subscribe if you haven't yet, and you'll get notifications of when I record any of these, or when these are scheduled, or whenever I record new videos. And next week, how about invite a friend? That'd be good to have more people here watching along. Okay, so again, we're looking at dedicated video game sales for the Nintendo Switch. So let's go ahead and get started. The first thing I like to do is go through the original visualization. So I'm going to open up the image in a new tab. Actually, I think I can probably just go to the source article. And we're looking at, let's see, this is Nintendo Switch. So let me see if I can reproduce it here. Let's see, we have, so this is looking, so I want to switch here to the Nintendo Switch. Get it? Switch to the Switch. And it looks like we have 4 lines and 4 colors in a bar. Okay, so it looks like we've got hardware and software sales mixed together. Oh wow, this is like super hard to read. So I have to bounce back and forth between the line. I got to look at the axis, remember kind of where I am here, go down to the legend and try to find it, and then try to remember what it was. Wow, this is like really hard to read. Now this is annual data. I see we have quarterly data here as well, but that's just all Switch software, and it doesn't go back very far. So let's see, there's a Switch platform. But that only goes, the quarterly data only goes back to 2019, so that's not very useful. If I go to annual, it looks like we have, let's go to Switch. It looks like we have 4 years worth of data. So basically it looks like the sales are growing. Yeah, so this is, I find this very hard to read. Let's see, it looks like maybe we can switch between some of these. So the interactivity is pretty nice. So it's not too bad if you look at them one at a time. But now I can't see the software as well at the same time. So yeah, this is not great. Historical data for prior fiscal years. Okay, so let's see what this looks like. Okay, so we've got some historical data here. Let's see, this one looks like sales. Let's open that up. Okay, so we have Nintendo DS and after. So this is looking at, so here's the Nintendo Switch right here. And this looks like it's exactly the same data that's in the data that we have. Okay, so there's nothing really useful here. The only thing here would be if you want to include, it's interesting, this looks like it kind of goes on a diagonal from upper left to lower right, where you can see when they switch platforms. It went from the DS to the Wii to the 3DS to the Wii U and now to the Switch. So you can see how it's just gradually changing. They change the hardware so that you are almost forced to switch consoles. Right. So let's go to Tableau and let's go ahead and connect to the data set. And let's see what we have here. Okay, so let me open this up a bit. Okay, so we've got metric, we have hardware and software. So I think what I'm going to do is I'm just going to go ahead and edit these aliases. So alias, I'm going to call this one hardware. And call this one software. All right, and then these look like they're Oh, these are fiscal years, I think. Yeah, so those are fiscal years. And here we have, basically, we've got hardware and software. So if you see Japan here, we've got 2 rows for Japan. One says hardware, one says software. So I should be able to just strip out the country out of this field, make a country field. So I'm going to do a custom split, and I'm going to tell it to split on the backslash, and I want to do the last one column. And you'll see now I have a country. So I can rename this field. It's called country, or it's called region actually. Okay, and then I can hide that. And now that I have those, I can go ahead and pivot these because I want its dates. So I want it to go down instead of across. So I'm going to highlight those fields and pivot. And then this is units. So let's just put units. And then this one, I'm going to split it off on the year. So I'm going to split again and do that. And I want to do the last one. And then I'm going to make this a whole number and call it year. Okay, so maybe I think for now I'm actually going to call it fiscal year. And now I can hide that column as well, and I've got a nice cleaned up data set. So this would be, let's see, metric isn't the right word here. We're going to call either hardware or software would be another way to call that. Yeah, okay, so let's rename this hardware. Oh, it doesn't matter. Or software. I need to come up with a better name for this. I'm trying to think, isn't there a word that we can use to describe kind of both of these? It's not like platform, but I can't think of the name of it. Okay. Okay, let's go here. So I think that's it for the data cleanup. I'm going to go ahead and edit my aliases while I'm here. I'm kind of into the, ever since I've seen Ann Jackson use uppercase, I've been kind of into that. So I'm just going to rename these Americas and hit OK. Right, so let's go to our new sheet. I'm going to start by maybe just looking at the data. Maybe let's look at the number of units by year. Okay, nothing particularly interesting. Make that continuous. And if we look at maybe the region, actually let me go back here. Let's put the region onto rows, maybe onto detail. Okay, so now we can see how each region is growing. Maybe put region on color. All right, so we get something. Oh, now this is hardware and software, so I need to split it up probably. So hardware units, software units. Okay, and then we could maybe make this. So this is just kind of, what if I put it here instead? It's still going to do the same thing. Yeah. Okay, so this is hardware versus software. Neither of these is really all that interesting. One thing I could maybe do is do a % difference from, and I want to do it for each hardware in each region compared to the first, so 2017. Okay. Yeah, so this tells us, let me just turn the mark labels on the ends of the lines. So this tells us there's been a 1,217% increase in hardware sales in the other region. I'm going to need to verify some of this data, and a 4,000% increase in software in the other region. So let me duplicate this sheet because I want to just verify those numbers. So let's clear the table calc. So we've got 811. Let's look at this one. So we've got 237 and we have 18. So that's probably correct. So 811. Yeah, so those numbers look correct. So let me duplicate this one again. And this time I'm going to do relative to previous. So this is looking at year over year. Yeah, so this is where it goes kind of crazy because there was basically nothing in 2018 and then something in 2017. So that's where I wonder if this like spreadsheet, if you kind of combined these together, do the overall unit sales change? Like basically if we had like a grand total down here. Maybe that's something we could do if I have more time. Because you got software, you've got hardware, software, hardware, software, hardware. Yeah, it might be interesting to see all of these combined and see kind of what it looks like. All right, so that's that. So let's clear that sheet. Oh no, sorry, let's undo. I'm going to make this a percent of total instead. So percent of total. And I want to do it for each of those. Nope, I want to do it by region. Okay, so now this is going to give me the percent of total that each one makes up. So I've got Americas, Europe. I'm going to stick region onto label as well. And it looks pretty steady. So what this is looking at now, so these four will add up to 100%. So I'm comparing the Americas as a percent of all hardware units sold. So that's pretty neat looking. So let's see. So we could maybe do something with that. Okay, maybe that's something we could, maybe that's, maybe we can do something with that later. So this is percent of total lines. And then I'm going to duplicate this and create it as a stacked bar chart instead. Okay. And then maybe I can sort the regions. Let me get rid of that. And I'm going to sort the regions by, let's see, we're going to do field units ascending. Okay, there we go. So this puts the largest one at the bottom. You can see America's share is declining a bit, but yeah, not very useful. Okay, so I like this one so far, so I'm going to maybe color code that. These don't do me a whole lot of good. Move that to the beginning maybe. Okay, we could also look at if I duplicate the sheet. So let me just edit the table calc. It's by region. Okay, that's good. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to compare the percent of total software sales versus hardware sales. So what if I just get rid of that? And let's put region onto, there we go. So this is looking at hardware versus software sales. And if I put it by year, maybe let's try it like this maybe. Okay, so this is comparing hardware and software percent. This is percent of total units. Let me clear this sort here. Clear the sort. Okay, so this is looking at hardware versus software sales. Okay, so let's move this around. So this is basically the same view I just looked at. So if I flip this around and make it a line, I just see the two side by side instead of one above the other. So it's basically the same view. So, but what I was wondering is, so this is, let's see. Okay, so Dale, you asked a question. Would you group Japan and other as it is a country and not a continent? Well, Americas could mean North America and South America, and those are two different continents. These are the regions. So if I go back here to the data source, these are the regions that are used in the data that's provided by Nintendo itself. But it looks like the switch is when they started splitting it out to Europe as well. So if I can zoom in somehow. So you'll see here they started including Europe. So it's just the regions, that's all. So that's the way they classify it. Okay, so this isn't really telling me a whole hell of a lot either. Okay, let me duplicate this again and flip it. And then what if I, okay, it's not going to let me do a percent of total. Okay, so that's not very useful. What else could we do then? Let's see, we've got units. So the units can be split up into hardware and software. So I'm going to create two new calculated fields, one for hardware and one for software. Hardware. So this is the if contains hardware or software. Hardware. I'm doing it in lowercase because that's how it was originally. The aliases aren't going to impact this. Then I want to bring back the units. So that's just going to bring me back the number of units of hardware, and then duplicate, edit. Let's call this one software. Okay, now what I should get here, and then if I put, yeah, so you see here hardware units, software units. Okay, good. So now if I get rid of measure names and get rid of units, I have my hardware versus my software. I can maybe look at that by region. Okay. But the reason I want to do this is I can now compare these. So let's say that, let me duplicate this. And let's say we want to compare hardware to software. And let's take region and put it on color. And let's put, that can come off the view. So now we've got 4 dots. So this is just the hardware versus software. Now if I put, let me make this a line and put fiscal year onto path. So this is what's called a connected scatter plot. So it's looking at, let's see if I just show the, let's see, put the dots on the lines, and then let me label the end of the line. Okay, so this is showing us for each region how did hardware versus software sales change, or hardware units versus software units, how did they change? And it looks like they kind of grow along with each other, which isn't terribly surprising. So this would be my connected scatter plot. It's called a connected scatter plot because it's a scatter plot, and then we connect the dots with a line. So that's where it gets the name connected scatter plot. Okay. But I also, now that I have hardware versus software, I could maybe compare the two. So let's say we want to do, what I'm thinking here is I want to do the sum of software divided by the sum of hardware. So this is what this is going to calculate. This is how many units of software were sold for each unit of hardware. That's what this calculation is going to do for us. So I'm going to do, maybe I'll just call it software to hardware ratio. Okay, so now if I just look at that, and let's look at it by year. And let's turn our labels on. Okay. So this is a bit more of a normalized metric because it combines, it's looking at the ratio of hardware to software. So if I split that up by region and then make it a line, and let's put region onto color, turn my labels off. So, and let me make it continuous because I think this is kind of what we did at the beginning. Yeah, so this isn't really telling us a whole lot. And it doesn't make sense to have this as a percent of total. I wonder if I did something like, so let's create a, let's say percent of total software. So I'm going to say fixed on region. We want to sum the software. So this is for each region, give me the software. And then I want to divide that by the sum of the fixed, and then nothing, and just sum of software. So this is going to give me the percent of total. This is going to give me the percent of total of the region. That makes percent of total units for the region as a percentage of the total. So let me just show you what I mean by that. So if I go here, let me just put this up here as well. So if I look at, let's see this one here. So you see it's 44.52%. And okay, so something's not right there then. Oh wait, I'm in the wrong spot. So 52%, 44.52. What am I doing here? So software. Check my calculation, edit. So for each region, we want to sum up the software. It needs to be each region and year. And then I want to fix this on year. Okay, so now they should match 52.38. Okay, so that looks good now. So that's working. Oh, let me undo that. And then let's duplicate that and percent of total hardware. I don't really know where I'm going with this, but let's see what we can do. Okay. So now if I look at region and year, software, hardware, percent of total, percent of total. I'm just trying to organize this so I can see what it's actually doing. And then these two. So let's set these as percentages to 1 decimal. Okay. All right. So if I take these off. All right, so I wonder if it makes any sense to compare these two. So if I did something like, I don't know, software minus hardware, would that make any sense at all? Percent of total hardware versus percent of total. So this would be percent of total software versus hardware. And then default property format. Okay. So this is saying that the software in Americas, so what this is telling me then is the software in Americas is outperforming. They're selling more units of software in the US as a proportion of the world than they are hardware. So when this number is positive, that means you're selling a larger proportion of software than you are the proportion of hardware. Okay, so let's maybe try something with that then. So if we just look at that, nope, we don't want to do that. Okay, so now we can see. All right. What is this telling me though? Probably nothing. Okay. So what this says is Japan's percent of total. Okay, let me go back to this scatter plot and change this to, let me duplicate this and change hardware to percent of total hardware and software to percent of total software. Okay, so this is a bit different now. So let me, what I'm going to do is I'm going to duplicate that, and I want to, and then let me turn the label off, trend line, software, there we go, oops. I want to see basically a 45-degree line coming through here. But this needs to have also have year and region on the view. Okay, there we go. And then I'm going to get rid of the little lines. So what this is telling me now, let me just make that really thin. Everything that's, let me swap it around, that might make more sense. So everything that's up in this section, so means that they're selling more hardware than software. So let me just annotate this. So more software as a proportion to hardware. Something like that. That's what this kind of box is. So if I look back at my table, when I'm comparing, let me reorganize this a bit. So ideally, I would imagine they'd want the number of hardware units and the proportion of hardware units and the proportion of software units to be the same. But you can see in the US, these are all positive numbers. So that means that they sell a higher ratio of software than they do to hardware. I'm not sure if that makes sense or not. Hopefully it does. Okay, so I think maybe I think I kind of like this. So if I go back to that connected scatter plot, this isn't really helping me much. So what if I just make this circles? Let me hide this axis. It's really hard for me to put this into words. Let me flip it around again. Okay, this makes more sense there. So these four being up here means that they buy more software relative to their share of hardware. So let me put a trend line on here, it'll be easier to see. Oops. Oh, that's not what I want. There we go. That's what I want. Okay, so this is now telling me the ones that are above the line are getting a larger share of, I need some help wording this. If anybody can think of any way to word this, that would be great. Okay, but connecting them doesn't seem to make a lot of sense. So if let me go over, so that's no good, that's no good. So this is an option. So let me color that one red. I'm going to move that to the front. Yes, this is similar, just presented a different way. Okay. And then I like this one as well, color red. Okay. So software units are outselling hardware units. Okay, very good. Thank you, Denise. Software units are outselling hardware. Something like that. Okay. And then I could just flip that around for the bottom. Okay, something like that. Right. All right. So then if I look at this bar chart, I think this makes it a bit more obvious. Now, it could be where it started selling in the US quicker or something like that. Yeah, right. Yeah, so this one makes more sense to me, but I need to somehow clean this up. Okay, so what I could do is, I wonder if I could, if I ended this title, software outsells hardware. But that's not going to work because the scales aren't the same. So I would need to fix the axis to go from, let's say, minus 0.95 to 0.9. Okay, there we go. Now the text is right in the middle, but that looks terrible. Oh, just because I did it wrong. 0.9 minus, oh, 0.095. Okay, there we go. So now this text is kind of like right in the middle. So if I format this now, I could get rid of, I could just make my 0 line solid and maybe make it like thick and black. What is it? Okay, but that puts it behind. So let's clear that. Let's set that to none. Choose the grid lines to none. And then edit axis. I'm going to get rid of my tick marks. And now I can shrink this down a bit. And I'm going to now, I could leave it like that. That looks nice, and I don't know if I like it with or without the 0 line, but I like the 0 line being on top. So to do that, I'm just going to put a constant line in at 0. So if I want a line on top of so let's format it as that. And then I want to turn off the label, turn off the tooltip. Okay, so now that at least kind of splits it up a bit. I could also, if I want to give them a bit more room, if I put subtotals in here, so to give it a bit more room, I could take the subtotals and then hide them. And now I get like a gap in between. So that will then allow me to get rid of the column dividers. Where are we here? Okay, so maybe something like that. That helps me. You can see how these are nice and centered now. So what if I format these and I left align them? No, don't like that. And let's format. Do I get rid of that? Oh, I need to also change my label down here. So I need to format that and get rid of the word total. So you can't see it. So basically I just hid the grand totals. So somebody suggested moving the totals to the left. Yeah, I guess that's okay too. It makes America line up a bit better. So yeah, I think that's probably a better option there. That looks good. Thank you for the advice there. Okay, so maybe I'll say the Americas and Europe have consistently, let's see, so this is Nintendo Switch software sales have consistently outperformed hardware sales. Okay. I don't like the all caps here. So that's not the best title in the world, but that might work. Okay, so then I think I like the shading, but what kind of colors does Nintendo have any? So they've got red. Okay, that's not very useful. Corporate information. Okay. Okay, red and white. Okay, well, that's not very useful. Unless I wanted to do the title. That looks terrible. But what might be good here then is to maybe use their, what the hell, E612. Maybe I use that on the one end. Let's see what that looks like. So advanced, the center needs to be 0. Apply. And then maybe I'll do, actually, I think I have a red to black palette somewhere. Red to black. And then this one I'm going to make pure black. So, oops. I always get them backwards. Okay, so let's hit apply. That's very purple. That's not too bad. That is like very, very black. That's all right. I'm not too fussed by that. The switch basic controllers are blue and red. Okay. So switch basic controllers. Aha. Very good. Okay. So the question is, how do I pick these colors from the... Okay, maybe this is a better one. Okay. I bet I can pick the colors from this. So there's a really good website by Tableau Magic. Where is it here? I think it's under data design. What is it called here? Oh. Get colors from image. Color palette generator. Okay, here we go. So if I'm not going to use the image, I'm just saving it to upload to this this color palette generator. Let's see what it comes up with. So I'm going to give it a name, Nintendo. Aha, okay, so there we go. So we've got the red would be that color. And then the blue would be that color. I think I'm going to stick with that red though, because it's a bit, looks more Nintendo. Wow, that's bright. Maybe I should pick this one. I don't know. But it does meet those colors. So let me try design color palette generator. Oh, no, that's the wrong thing. Design. Let's see. Get colors from image. I'm going to try this website as well. Upload file. Okay. And I want to pick that. Let's see how close they are. Oh, they're pretty close. So maybe I'll try that color. It's not quite as shouty. I'll put links to these websites in the notes at the end. Okay, now the question is, do I... Yeah, I think I need to stick with the Nintendo red. Okay. Yeah, I think that's pretty good. Oops. What the heck? Oh, third one. Now the question is, what should be good and what should be bad? I would say that the blue should be the good, and the red should be the bad. Okay, I just need some feedback from you guys. Does it make sense what I'm trying to do here? Like the try those colors on the dark background, which has the background viz shading components. I don't really like dark backgrounds, but I can try it. Format shading. So if I go black, yeah, that does not look very good to me. Maybe if I change the font color, let me just try changing the default font color to like light gray or something. Oh, why did it not do? Oh, interesting. It didn't do the headers. Those do kind of pop off the page, but I don't know what it is about dark backgrounds. I think I'm going to stick with the white. Now it feels really bright. Okay. Okay. So Denise had suggested maybe a gray background. So let me try maybe something like that. That's not too bad. That's better. I think down here, what I think I'd like to have is I think I'd like to have the labels on here as well. The year, I think I'd like to have the years here rather than down here at the bottom. Let's see what that looks like. So if I do average of 0, oops. I'll show you what I'm thinking here in a second. And then instead of that being there, I want to have the, let's make it a Gantt bar. Gantt bar. And I want to have the year on the label. And then mark label, never show. And then I need to somehow hide. Okay, there we go. So now if I dual axis, and this one needs to be a bar. And then if I synchronize, I can go ahead and hide that header. Now if I go into my Gantt bar, I could put the labels at the, let's see, so alignment at the bottom. Okay. All right, so let me change the color of that to be nothing. And then what I could do is I could grab that label and just move it ever so slightly above it. And then I could do that for these. This is quite fiddly. I probably could do all this through a calculation, but I can't be bothered. Although I guess it would have been easier to do the other years. The blue ones instead, there would have been less things to move. Okay, something like that. But now that 2017 in the red feels kind of out of place. This is the Nintendo red, but so if I go with the Switch red, let me copy that. Yeah, I agree. That's not quite as bright now. Okay, I think I'm pretty much done here then. Now I can hide the header for my years. Now I wonder if I get rid of my row dividers, what does that look like? I think I kind of like the row dividers. And then this axis here. Yeah, something like that. But I want to get a little arrow symbol instead. So let's go to Data Viz Design. Let's see, so let's go to Where are my arrows? Supplemental arrows. So in here, so edit. Instead of having that, I'm going to put an arrow in there. And then I want to do the right arrow on that side. Let's see how that looks. Oh, those are really hard to see. That's okay. All right, so let's now throw this into a dashboard. Oh, didn't want to do that. It's probably going to need to be like a little wider than it is tall. Let's see, so let me format the dashboard. Okay, there we go. So now I'm going to go ahead and show my caption. And I'm going to put some padding in here. Okay, let's make this 8. So what's our data source here? It is Nintendo Investor Relations. Okay, so now this has too much space in it. So maybe I should just say more hardware and then make this one. Okay, so I think the last thing I'm going to do here then is I'm going to change these year labels to a smaller font. So let's maybe make them 8.7. Let's see how that looks now. And then these labels on the bars could probably be a bit bigger. Okay, let's see how that looks. Okay, now those labels are way too big. All right, so let's go back here. All right. And what I could do is I could just make the whole dashboard maybe a bit taller and a bit wider. Okay. All right. I think I like that. Okay. What do you think? Any feedback on that? I'll give it a few seconds here. I need to reword this title. Nintendo Switch software sales have consistently, I think I need to say, the Nintendo Switch software sales have consistently outperformed. Maybe this should be like a subtitle. Maybe that should be like, maybe. And then maybe make this like 18. Maybe. And now what I could do is I could use those colors then. So where's our, so I could use the colors. Comparing hardware, maybe I should say comparing software and hardware units sold. Okay, how about something like that? Use rounded edges? No. Yeah, so oh, these are backwards anyway. I just, let's see, I just got these colors backwards. That's real smart. So maybe I should switch the colors around. So the idea here was from Dimitri, I think it was, to switch these colors around. So I could just reverse them. That'd be easier. Yep, I think that's better. Okay. Let's see. Quick walkthrough on sheet 10.2. So I already did a walkthrough on sheet 10.2. That's the one we're just looking at. So if you missed any of it, just have a look back at the video. Okay, let me see. Any other comments or suggestions here? Okay. So Lucas asks a good question on the chat. His question was the percent or numbers of units sold. So America in 2017 sold 8.6% more units of software than it did of hardware. That is correct. That's exactly right. Okay. But I need to somehow specify in here, I think this needs to be adjusted ever so slightly to be, let's say we want the end to be maybe something like that. But I think, yeah, but this also needs to be right. So yeah, so that's a good question, Lucas. And this should just be in regular case. So Nintendo Switch software sales. Global Nintendo Switch software sales. The percentage of global Nintendo Switch software sales have consistently outperformed hardware sales in the Americas and Europe. Okay, I think, does that help? Hopefully that helps explain it a bit more. So the percentage of global Nintendo Switch software sales have consistently outperformed hardware sales in the Americas and Europe. Okay, I think that's good. All right, I'm going to stop there. If anybody has any questions, you could just leave them in the comments and I should see them, hopefully. Again, there's a couple of links I will post. Let's see, so I'll post a link to the data source, to the original, and then to these couple of websites that allow you to generate color palettes, and then also this one that I get ASCII characters and things from. Okay, so I think that's it. Thank you for joining, everybody, and I hope you have a great rest of your week. Have a good day.